my own tax money back, gee.
And other people's too. That's how it works, the pool.
Right, but my dad was a pretty high earner, so I think I got most of his money back because he was an engineer. He actually was the first to go to college. His parents were working class. He went to MIT, so I mean, anybody can make it. There's no classes, right? Okay.
So, James wants to ask.
James? Is that it?
I had a question for Paul Hicks. You said you wanted to live in a society where the people that are better off give resources to those that are worse off because they're somehow incapable of getting further without it.
No, I didn't say that.
What you meant was, or what you said was that if you're worse off, you have a moral obligation to give to those. To those that are worse off, correct? You said if you're better off, you have a moral obligation to give to those that are worse off.
Possibly, yeah.
So in your society, you wanna live in a society where if you do better, you're punished for that. That's my question.
Strong man fallacy.
I think, as my student right up front told me, that's a straw man fallacy. Why is that? Essentially, what you're doing is you are reconstructing my position in a way I actually don't hold it. Right? So, number one, I'll stand up. What I actually said is what Rawls actually says, is that the society that I want is not to have one which takes those who are better off and forces them to make those worse off better. Is that the society that I want is going to be one where the worst off are made as best off as they can be. How does that happen? Well, there's a variety of ways that can happen, right? Well, also, what resources are we going to take? You're going to take the resources from the poor? They're poor, they ain't got any. That's the whole point, right? Yeah, we're going to take resources from those that, guess what? Have them. You're right. Right? Because there's basic fundamental rights and basic fundamental liberties that all human beings have, and some of that is food, shelter, medical care, and yes, education. Right? And you got to pay for it somehow. You got to make it happen somehow. So.
Hi, Professor Hicks. I think, I just wanted to say that, don't you guys think it's fair that all the resources we take from other countries, especially Africa, which they take minerals from out of the mines by villages that militants go in and rape and pillage the women and children. Don't you think it's kind of fair to give a little bit of those resources back, considering that Apple makes that millions and I don't know how much, but a lot of money out of it.
$96 billion in cash.
$6 billion?
96.
96 billion.
They deserve it.
Wow.
No, I think they gave $2 billion back.
I think, I think that goes to mainly the militants that go and fetch those things. But what happens to those women and children that get raped? And those men that die? I don't know. It's a thing to think about.
Well, I don't think either one of us are in favor of rape and pillaging. I think both of us are pretty much against that one. From the Marxist
Actually, I
perspective-
don't shop at Walmart because at our house we call it Walmart.
me neither.
And,
I agree with you.
Chinese slave labor is used. So, as a consumer, you don't trade with non-free market countries and countries that do not protect rights. That's true.
So with all due respect to that, Walmart still exists and
Yeah.
slave labor still exists, right? So the free market system is not working to get rid of the slave labor that is rampant throughout the third world.
I think there would be government failure because they're forming agreements with countries and charities because of corporate welfare. That's government corruption.
Yeah, the tyranny of capitalism.
Capitalism.
That would be government failure, not market failure. Government's not protecting your rights.
No, once again, the rights are not just negative, and the rights also have to be positive.
No,
You
they're
can't just-
negative. They're negative.
You can't just make them one way, right? It's a rather ad hoc, another fallacy. We got more, yeah, so shut up for a second.
Thank you. I'm Professor Skidmore. I teach in the business department. I'm the director of our John Placement Center. Paul, I think you're confused in your argument.
You're not the first.
I know. First of all, you're too young. You've never lived nor worked in a communist country. I have. And at the conclusion of World War II, when the communists came into Germany, Bulgaria, Hungary, they confiscated all of the property, took it away from the people. And those who were in power, the bureaucrats, still lived well, and they lived high. Your argument is to pervert the law. That is, to turn the law on its head and cause it to confiscate property from people who have worked and earned it, and give that property to others who have not worked nor earned it. That's how Marxism works itself out, and I don't think you've ever experienced that. You gave us an example of your shirt being made in Honduras, and you think it's wrong, but those people working in a factory to make you a shirt are not paid sufficiently. My question to you, and this is a rhetorical question, is have you actually ever reached into your pocket and taken your money and sent it down to Honduras to make up for the guilt you feel over that? I'm going to present two scenarios for you. I want you to tell me the difference between them. I'm a crook. I come up to you, Paul, and I say, give me everything that you have, or I will harm you greatly. And you, in your timidity, ask me, sir, what are you going to do with my assets and my resources? And I tell you, well, I have to pay my rent. I have to put food on the table. I have to pay for the electricity and gas, clothe myself and my children, and if there's enough money left over, I'm going to go to Disneyland. Next scenario. I'm the bureaucrat from the government, and I come to you and I say, Paul, give me your property on pain and harm. That's what government does. And you timidly ask me, but sir, what are you going to do with my capital, my property, my resources? And I tell you, why, I'm going to spread it out amongst all these people, because there are some who need to pay their rent, put food on the table, pay for electricity and gas, put clothes on their back. And if there's enough left over, they're going to take a trip to Magic Mountain. The question to you is, what's the difference in those two scenarios?
One second. Number one, first of all, whether I'm too young or not is irrelevant to whether my argument works or not. It's an ad hominem, as I'm sure my students will tell you. But
philosophy you follow.
well, yeah, once again, either the logic works or it doesn't. So that's going to be a different issue. Yeah, but the logic, once again, Marxism actually hasn't been tried once again. I'm sorry to tell you guys that. What Mao has done, what Stalin and Lenin, Castro, that isn't true Marxism. Marx was not a normative theorist. Marx was a descriptive theorist. So once again, I would say you're simply wrong on that. Now, as far as the problem between the bureaucratic crook, which, trust me, I agree, there are bureaucratic crooks. Most of them are crooks. Though I'll have to be somewhat quiet about that, considering where I work at a bureaucratic public institution, right? But they are crooks. You're right. So what? But here's the thing. Why is it that they don't have money? Why is it that people that are supposed to take it to go, take it to, spend on Disneyland or to pay rent to buy their family food? You are being circular within the capitalist system. You're presupposing a monetary system, one by which one earns based upon labor. You're presupposing all of that. So what you actually didn't do is even answer the questions that Marx is supposing in this quote that I gave. So I just think you're being circular. Capitalism is causing its own problem. That's why. And capitalism is causing the crookedness as well.
The idea is that the law has been perverted. One is legal, the other is illegal. And that's simple enough.
But the law is created by man. The law,
Created to protect us.
No, the law was created to protect some of us. The law was created by members of Congress and the president. Which, if you check their tax returns, what side do you think? Who do you think they're protecting? Themselves. They don't care about you and me. Period.
Today, we'll be doing it again in the fall, right?
I know that some people are leaders, so if I could just kind of say something, I'm sure that you'll agree with me on this. I want to encourage all of you to get involved and to get active. Vote. And do not fall for the false dichotomy that you have to vote for Republicans or Democrats. That is a lie. That is a lie. There is no difference between the Republicans and the Democrats. Want to know who one of the worst presidents we've ever had is? Barack Obama. He's currently violating civil liberties. Is he worse than George Bush? Trust me, there's not much difference. So you want to vote Libertarian? There is outside a voter registration guide. Sign up, check off Libertarian, check off Green Party, check off Peace and Freedom, check off whatever you want. Make your voice heard, but do not make it heard for the Republicans or Democrats because they do not care about you.
Read about it.
Right? Go ahead, sorry.
This is directed mainly to Professor Brown. I'm just curious, how do you think capitalism is going to address, by its very nature, it depends on it's sustained by its growth, and it has to grow in order to function. By its very nature, it grows. How does capitalism intend to sustain itself going forward? And I've heard that one of Marx's fundamental arguments against capitalism is that it'll collapse because it has to keep growing. And by the nature of just with our planet, there are fixed resources on the planet, and these resources aren't growing, and there's undue stress that's not going to be able to basically it's unsustainable. And capitalism, basically, how do you address its unsustainability?
I highly recommend this book, Abundance. We do set aside national parks because we enjoy the natural beauty of campgrounds, but we also set aside resort land for other uses, such as the laptop that you enjoy and food on the table. And as long as people discover new ways to get things out of our resources, I don't expect things to get worse. I think his name is Herbert Simon. He's written a series of books about how population grows. We actually get better and better technologies as people get more and more education. They become specialists. And we have 6 billion, 7 billion people on the planet, and yet population is growing, and yet life expectancy is improving. It's going up. We're living longer, and that's a metric to show that we are better off. So to me, you're holding technology constant, and it never changes. It just changes. It goes on, it gets better and better. But things like pollution, that's something we have to keep an eye on, and global warming, I find that a very interesting debate because there's a lot of data on both sides. I'm watching to see how that shakes out. It's interesting. So, you're very pessimistic. You can't have, if you're constrained to your own fence, good fences make good neighbors, and you're constrained to your own budget, you can't dip into your neighbor's budget for your needs. You respect people's work products, and you do not interfere with those. You can make choices. You can have 7 kids, but you won't be going to Hawaii on vacations. Your carbon footprint stays the same. You'll have to spend money on your own children. So, and if there are more people on the planet, that'll push up prices until new technology comes in. And the prices go up, people reduce family size. So it's an ebb and flow over time. I'm very optimistic. As long as people respect each other's property rights, they can't plunder each other. They have to design new ways to get resources, to get goods and services out of the resources that exist. And they do innovate. It's interesting.
Just a quick thing. You said that life expectancy keeps getting higher and higher with technology and things, but like for who? And for how many people?